As Omicron hangs around, the debate about vaccine requirements continues around theme parks. Will cast be required to be vaccinated? What about guests? We have an update on both coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hey, Fresh Baked, we've got some news about vaccination requirements at the Disneyland Resort. You may recall back in July, Disney announced they were going to require that all cast be vaccinated, both in parks and in offices around the country. They paused this policy in Florida due to a local ban by the state, said you can't do that. Meanwhile, in California, the vaccination mandate was being enforced, but only for non-union cast members. They had not yet come to an agreement with how to, put that together with the unions. At the time, I thought it was a lock that Disney and the unions would get together and they would figure things out pretty quickly. But it has been complete silence on this topic since then, since July. 6 months later, we have this update from the Workers Local United 50. They're one of several Disney unions, and they updated their members that negotiations with Disney were officially over. No agreement had been reached, and that Disney was going to be moving forward with their vaccination requirements, and it would include all cast, both union and non-union. Now, it's our understanding that Disney was pretty steadfast in requiring that their cast be vaccinated, but they didn't want to proceed with the policy without the backing of the union. They didn't want to move forward until they had their full support. So what then were the negotiations over? What is it that the unions wanted from Disney in order to get their support for the vaccination requirements? Now, the update from the union didn't mention this, only that they had negotiated in good faith, but it is my understanding that the sticking point was guest vaccinations. The unions wanted Disney to require that the guests also be vaccinated. Disney wouldn't agree to this, apparently, so talks ended, and Disney has simply decided to move forward with the vaccination policy without the support of the unions. From this, we can learn a couple of things. First and foremost, Disney does not want to require their guests to be vaccinated. That is not something that they want to do. And they won't, not unless they are forced to by the state or by the local government, by the county, as in the case with LA. Now, I had always personally believed this. I never thought for a minute that Disney was going to start requiring this, but we're asked this often. Does Disney require vaccinations? Are they going to require vaccinations? We're asked this a lot, so it leads me to think that there's a lot of people out there who are unsure or who have questions. This should hopefully be some form of confirmation for those guests, for those fans, that Disney is not interested in requiring guests to be vaccinated. Disney attendance is perilous enough as it is right now, and I don't think they could survive. I don't really think they could survive another hit to their attendance. And certainly, requiring vaccinations would impact attendance. And I mean, it's a difficult spot they're in. I don't envy their position in this at all on either side of the conversation. But what's interesting is that I don't think they could survive the loss of more cast, more than they already have. They've had tough going keeping people employed at Disneyland. And certainly, requiring cast members to be vaccinated is going to be cause for, they're going to lose some cast over this. That may be why they've held 2 separate job fairs leading up to this news breaking. Maybe it was a preemptive move on their part to get more cast in before they lose them again. The other thing that we can observe, and this is something that I didn't understand before, but apparently Disney doesn't need the approval of the unions to make this happen. But happen and it will. Effective April 11th, all cast are going to be required to show proof of vaccination. Or else, I guess. It's going to be very interesting to see how this affects the parks, when the time comes. I don't know if people are going to quit in advance of them requiring the vaccination, or if they're going to wait until the last minute before they quit, or I don't know what the term is, let go. But April is going to be an interesting month at the Disneyland Resort. Now, in a related story, France, the country, announced the launch of a vaccine pass for all people aged 16 or older. And this pass will be needed to access leisure activities. Safe to assume this includes theme parks, namely Disneyland Paris. And an interesting tangent to this story, as it relates specifically to Disneyland Paris anyway, is that because they are now requiring vaccinations in France, they are able to do more in Disneyland Paris than before. Shows like Disney Illuminations, the Frozen Show, and just regular old bar service were, until now, not available to guests inside the Disneyland Resort, or the Disneyland Paris Resort. No shows, no drinks. But these are all now coming back to Disneyland Paris. And it makes me wonder if parks here in the United States are, operating under similar restrictions. I mean, probably not to the same degree that they are in France or in Paris. There's no shows right now at the Hyperion. There's nothing happening at Launch Bay. Now, both of these were empty vessels to begin with, but that could be one of the leading reasons why they decided to cancel those shows, why they canceled the Frozen show at the Hyperion, because they wouldn't be able to put that show on anyway under these current conditions. COVID would prevent you from doing a Frozen show at the Hyperion. But then we are serving guests indoors, August Cantina, Carthay, and they've had no problem putting on, nighttime shows, fireworks shows and parades on a regular basis when they were a thing. They had no problem putting those things on. And we do have more shows on the way. They are in development. Fantasmic, World of Color, Disneyland Forever. But then that does beg the question, is that perhaps the reason why those shows have been delayed as long as they have been? Do COVID precautions limit Disney's ability to put on an effective show? Waiting until spring or even summer, when it's less likely to contract the virus, when it's less likely for this to become a problem. It's spiking right now during the winter. Maybe they don't want to start a show in the winter. Maybe they'd rather do it in spring, late spring, or early summer. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know anything, just food for thought. But what do you think, Fresh Baked? Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I know this is a kind of divisive conversation. I do want to hear from you, but please do remember to be patient and be kind with others when discussing this. Oh, and before we go, real quick, I want to talk about an interesting interview that the New York Times had with Bob Iger. First, let me preface this by saying that a lot of people don't like Bob Chapek, Bob Iger's replacement as CEO of the Disney company. A lot of people don't like Bob Chapek enough that there was a rumor going around for a hot minute that Bob Iger was going to come back and be CEO again, literally like a month after he quit. Well, quit anyway as chairman. He had quit his CEO job a while back, but he was still chairman of the company. Anyway, Iger was asked about this, and his response was brief but informative. Asked about the rumors that he might return again as CEO, he said, well, that's ridiculous. I'm trying. I do a terrible Bob Iger impression. He did say that's ridiculous. Then he said, I was CEO for a long time. You can't go home again. I'm gone. So that means he's definitely coming back, right? I'm kidding. He's right, of course. It's lunacy to think that he would come back after just being gone for a minute. But it was kind of funny to watch people get all twisted up about this, on social media. I mean, they even sort of petitions. Yeah, Bob Iger is done with Disney. Done. The words, I'm gone, sound pretty final to me. It's almost like a mic drop. Just wanted to drop that at the end. You guys are going to have to deal with Bob Chapek for a little while at least. But with that, guys, stay tuned for more news from Fresh Baked as it develops. And until next time, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney. That's fresh with no E. I am struggling with my outro. On TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Until next time, guys, I love you very much. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.